Hey, hi everybody. Well, today we're going to work on some Civil War blocks. You can see I've got them all cut out and ready to look at them. So let's go ahead and get started with, I think the first one is called, let's get to it here. Not that one. This one. It's called Lincoln's Platform. And this is Civil War Sampler by Barbara Brockman. And you can see that the example showed a fussy cut something in the middle with some stripes. Down here too, stripes. So that's what I did. I found some stripes in my basket of Civil War fabrics and a medallion to stick in the middle. Isn't that cool? So this is how it's gonna look. Let's see. Yeah, the red comes on the inside and the white goes on the outside. So this is called Lincoln's Platform. And you know, it's referring to President Lincoln, and his platform was abolish slavery. Let's see. It says Charles Bowditch was lucky enough to sit very near the presidential platform on the steps of the Capitol when Lincoln was sworn in as president. So in his memoirs, he wrote about, he was quite impressed with Mrs. Lincoln. So it says, to the president's rooms and found a good many people there, consisting, however, I believe, of his and his wife's relations. Mrs. Lincoln is a very pleasant looking woman and is by no means coarse looking, as newspapers have said. She's dressed in brown silk with a black velvet cloak and a green plush bonnet. They're still worried about what they're wearing, you know? So he says, as it goes on and on, he says, you see, the inauguration has gone through very successfully and safely, and Mr. Lincoln has not been made the victim of any hostile invention or infernal machine, such as a bomb. Okay, so he's received many threatening letters, of which maybe made the family feel very uncomfortable. Well, this quilt pattern dates to the end of the 19th century, has many names, among them Shoe Fly, Monkey Wrench, and Hole in the Barn Door. In the 1935 book, Carrie Hall called it Lincoln's Platform. Another war-related name is Sherman's March, first published by a newspaper about that time. So this all referenced to Catherine Richardson. We had a very fine day. Charles Bowditch attends Lincoln's inauguration. And so this is in the Essex Institute of Historical Collections, January 88. So this is just such a wonderful compilation of information. And this particular one, I modeled it after this one here, with the stripes on the sides. Red is the predominant dark color, and the fussy cut in the middle. Okay, so I'll sew that up and then I'll hold it up for you to see. The second one that we're going to look at today is called Richmond, and it's named after the city of Richmond. And you can see that predominantly these are red, white, and blue, and gray, because of course the Confederacy was gray with red, white, and blue. And so we have little diamonds. I really went after the colors for this one on the bottom. So I have the red, and I have dark blue. These are reproduction fabrics that I bought from Fat Quarter Shop. And then a white, this white has little stars on, little X's on it, and actually that's from Hobby Lobby. Okay, so here we go on this story. Richmond, as we remember, was the capital of the Confederacy and home to Confederate President Jefferson Davis and his wife, Varina Howell Davis. At the start of their war, the family included 3 children, Marguerite, Jefferson, and Joseph. And then she'd had a 4th child by the end of the war. As referenced in the diary of her close friend, Varina was the life of the party, very clever and very pleasant. I'm, extrapolating. Then as the war became close to the end in 1864, she talks to her friend about she had gone to her sewing room, picked up her sewing, had just uncovered my sewing basket when a servant came in and told me my youngest son, Joseph, had crawled up on the banister and had fallen to his death. That would be the awfulest, most awful. And then shortly after, she gave birth to her youngest and named her Variana Ann. My name is a heritage of woe. So this is the Richmond block was published about 1915 by Hearth and Home magazine, which asked readers for patchwork patterns for state capitals. Now this information comes from Armistead Churchill Gordon Jefferson Davis, printed in 1918, and also Van Woodard, editor of Mary Chestnut's Civil War, which is the girlfriend that she was writing to in her memoirs, 1993. So the really excellent sources, and we have two options on this block. One was created by Carol Sanderson and the other by Melissa Devon. Now for me, I have used, I talked about the different fabrics, and so I think what I'm going to do is just get those put together and then show you the final result. And then next time we're going to work on a basic pinwheel and a comfort quilt. So we're getting into the part that's interesting for me. I was reading ahead. The comfort quilt had to do with the people who became nurses to help the wounded, because surprisingly the armies had no provision for people to help their wounded. And so what's interesting, it says no woman under 30 need apply. And they had difficulty getting ladies to admit they were over 30, so they were having challenges. Anyway, so that's the comfort quilt. And then after the comfort quilt, I think is another nurse-related one. No, that was the New England block with Mary Louisa May Alcott, the author of so many wonderful books. And then we come to the Ladies' Aid album. And then there's another one about what constitutes a flag that would indicate a hospital, and that was H is for hospital. So that's coming up soon too. It's a yellow flag with a green H. It's not the Red Cross looking, it's a yellow flag with a green H. So we've got quite a few nursey related ones coming up. All right, so that's the story for today. Let me go ahead and get these sewn up and I'll show you the finished products. Yes. Hello again. Oh my, we're really washed out. Well, I'll hold these up. This one is called Richmond, I believe. Yes, Richmond. Isn't that beautiful? I had to open up some of the seams and redo them so that they would be as close as possible to matching, you know. And then this is the one that I like the most. It's called Lincoln's Platform. You see how the stripes really set off the medallion. Let's see, how does it go? Like that. I love it. There's another block coming that has a rose theme, so I'm looking for my roses to use. That's not exactly a rose, but we could call it a rose. It could be an open rose rather than a more commercial rose. Okay, so there we are. Civil War, 2 blocks, July. Check it off.